headlines, the fugitive chauffeur of the sunken ferry Sewol's dead owner turns himself in to the prosecution. Korea's political parties make a final appeal for votes on Tuesday, the eve of parliamentary by-elections. And a national security advisor to President Barack Obama says the U.S. will join the European Union this week in slapping new economic sanctions on Russia for its continued support for separatists in Ukraine.
Welcome to Primetime News, live from Seoul. I'm Sean Lim.
And I'm Kang Tae-ri. Thanks for joining us tonight. We begin with the latest development in investigations into the April ferry disaster.
One of the closest aides to the late owner of the ferry operator has turned himself in to authorities after weeks in hiding. Our Connie Lee starts us off.
After 2 months of being on the run, 55-year-old Yang Hee-jung, described as one of the closest aides to the deceased owner of the sunken Sewol ferry, has turned himself in. Yang appeared at the Incheon District Prosecutor's office this Tuesday morning and now faces charges of helping Yoo Byung-un evade authorities. Yang, who also worked as a driver for Yoo, was last seen at the end of May on the surveillance camera in Suncheon, southern Korea, the same city where Yoo was found dead, and around the same time Yoo is believed to have died. Authorities believe Yang holds answers to what Yoo Byung-un was doing right before he passed away. Yang's surrender comes 1 day after his wife and another close aide to Yoo Byung-un turned themselves in, and a few days after Yoo's eldest son was arrested. Yoo's younger son still remains at large. The hunt for the Yoo family is all in the name of finding the exact cause of the deadly ferry accident that killed more than 300 people. Even President Park Geun-hye has said the Yoo Byung-un family was the root cause of the disaster. However, the real causes of the accident are still unclear. Lawmakers at the National Assembly, because of partisan differences, have not been able to pass a bill aimed at coming up with the real answers of what made the ferry sink on April 16th. Connie Lee, Arirang News.
The probe into the April ferry disaster is two-part, one on the ferry operator and its corrupt business practices, and two, the poor emergency response that failed too many lives. And for that, we saw the first arrest of a Coast Guard official today. Park Ji-won has more.
Prosecutors arrested the captain of a Coast Guard patrol boat that was tasked with saving lives from the then-sinking Sewol ferry in mid-April. The Gwangju District Prosecutor's Office, which has been probing the Coast Guard on the Sewol ferry disaster, arrested the 53-year-old official, identified only by his family name Kim, on Tuesday. Kim was the chief of the Mokpo Coast Guard's patrol boat at the time of the disaster and is alleged to have ripped off official work records and fabricated new records that same day. The prosecution suspects he did so to cover up errors committed by the Coast Guard in its initial response to the ferry disaster. If he is found to be responsible for the failed rescue operation, during which only victims who were in the water were saved, prosecutors say they would consider charging Kim with negligent homicide. It's the first time authorities have taken into custody a Coast Guard official who was engaged in rescue operations at the disaster scene, and comes amid mounting criticism of the maritime agency. Student survivors of the accident providing testimony in court on Tuesday against the sunken ferry's captain and crew members said there appeared to be more fishermen involved in the rescue operation than Coast Guard officials. They told a panel of judges they want those responsible within the Coast Guard to be punished severely. Sewol Captain Lee Jun-seok and 14 of his crew are currently on trial, accused of charges ranging from negligence to homicide. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
The largest by-elections in Korea's history are less than a day away. Our Ji Myung-gil reports on the final stretch of the campaign trails for 15 seats in the National Assembly and what the outcome of the elections will mean for the parties.
Candidates in Wednesday's by-elections have just one more day to appeal to voters on the campaign trail, and the rival parties are leaving nothing to chance. They'll be out all day shaking hands and rallying up support, particularly in the races in Sewol and Gyeonggi-do province, which are neck and neck.
5 candidates are running for seats in Gyeonggi-do province. We're showing the people that we want all our candidates to be elected.
I've been eating and sleeping here in Seoul's Dongjak district and in the city of Suwon. That is why I wasn't able to attend some party meetings.
The opposition candidate has been boosted in Seoul's Dongjak district and 2 constituencies in Suwon, Gyeonggi-do province, after unifying under one candidate. The Conservative Party has attacked the move as political collusion, but the main opposition party and the minor opposition, Justice Party, claim the alliances were formed by the candidates on their own accord. For both rival parties, the stakes in the by-election are high. A positive outcome for the Saenuri Party would provide a further boost for newly elected chairman Kim Moo-sung, while a win for the main opposition party would do the same for co-chairs Kim Han-gil and An Chol-soo, who have led the party since forming it in March. A loss would have the opposite effect for the duo. They handpicked the candidates in many of the race's more important districts, generating criticism inside and out of the party. A total of 15 parliamentary seats are up for grabs in Wednesday's by-election, with the Saenuri Party already holding 147 spots in the 300-seat parliament. The opposition hopes to minimize ruling party gains. Kim Young-gil, Arirang News.
Saying with the by-elections, it's hard to say who will have the upper hand in the end, from political alliances to the ferry accident probe. A number of factors make half of the races unpredictable. Our Chae Yu-sun has more.
The ruling and main opposition parties believe they each have the upper hand in securing 3 of the 15 parliamentary seats up for grabs in Wednesday's by-elections. As for the remaining 9 seats, 6 of which are in Seoul and the surrounding area, the election will likely go down to the wire. The main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy's united front with the minor Justice Party in the much-contested Dongjak district in Seoul, as well as 2 constituencies in Suwon, Gyeonggi-do province, have turned the tables on the ruling Saenuri Party. While it remains unclear how the political alliances will affect voter sentiment, the ruling party spent its final day of campaigning highlighting its push to breathe new life into the local economy.
We ask you to elect candidate number 1 of the ruling party, who will work for the region, work for the nation to revitalize the economy.
The police and prosecution's failure to arrest Yoo Byung-an, the practical owner of the mismanaged ferry that sank in April while he was still alive, and questions that remain surrounding Yoo's death have also become a hot potato in the upcoming elections.
The main opposition party is the force that can hold the Park Geun-hye administration in check. We earnestly ask that you give us the strength to contain the incompetent and irresponsible ruling power.
It's voter turnout, however, that will ultimately decide which party will come out the victor on Wednesday. The scorching heat and voting day falling on peak vacation season will likely affect the turnout. Chae Yu-sun, Arirang News.
The rally on the Kospi continues. The index closed higher today to pass the 2060-point mark for the very first time in 3 years, enjoying improved China data and, of course, the Korean government's latest stimulus package. Kim Ji-yeon explains.
Korea's benchmark Kospi peaked on Tuesday to end at 2,061, its highest closing mark since August 2011. The rise was mainly due to strong foreign buying. Foreign investors have bought almost $550 million worth of Korean shares over the past week, as their reluctance to buy Korean shares has somewhat waned. Up until now, foreign investors were reluctant to buy Korean shares due to the country's heavy reliance on the Chinese economy and uncertain
uncertainties over Korea's economic policy direction. China recorded growth of 7.5% in the second quarter of this year, up 0.1 percentage point from the previous quarter, buoyed by stimulus measures from Beijing.
The Chinese economy seems to be starting to recover from its down cycle of less than 8% growth in recent months. But the main trigger has been Korea's new economic team, led by Finance Minister Choi Kyung-hwan, and the stimulus measures to revitalize the economy.
Despite the record-breaking gains, Korean stocks recorded the lowest price gains compared to 6 other emerging markets in Asia. The Kospi has risen less than 2% this year, a stark contrast to India's 23% and Taiwan's near 10% rise. Kim Jeon, Arirang News.
Korea logged a current account surplus for the 28th straight month in June. The Bank of Korea said Tuesday the total that came to slightly over $7.9 billion last month. That pushed the current account balance for the first half of this year to an all-time high of $39.2 billion, a 25% increase on year. The country's current account balance has been in the black since March 2012, the second longest stretch since 38 consecutive months posted in the late 80s. Exports of display panels and semiconductors both rose more than 10% in June on year.
The U.S. government shrugged off a recent threat of nuclear attack coming from North Korea. Pyongyang said it would strike Washington and U.S. military bases if it were ever threatened. The official comment was essentially no comment, but a former U.S. official says it may be time to talk. Our Yulian reports.
When asked about North Korea's recent threat to drop a nuclear bomb on the White House, the U.S. State Department fell short from providing a detailed answer.
I had not actually seen that report with everything going on. I think it's fair to say that that kind of inflammatory rhetoric is not a way to move towards a place in the world.
The White House also declined to comment on Pyongyang's threat made during a large rally on Sunday by North Korea's top military official who accused Washington of raising tensions on the peninsula.
Our military will launch nuclear-armed rockets towards the White House and U.S. military bases.
The latest threat comes amid criticism within the U.S. of the Obama administration's approach toward Pyongyang. It centers around strategic patience and holding off on direct talks with the North Korean regime until concrete steps to denuclearize are taken. But North Korea appears to be hunkering down.
By mentioning the possibility of nuclear war, North Korea wants to show it will not be dragged around by the U.S. Instead of showing North Korea's nuclear capabilities, this shows it's frustrated that the nuclear issue is not being addressed or resolved.
Former U.S. State Department official Joel Witt also told the Joseonilbo on Monday that leaving North Korea alone over the past 6 years has been a mistake. He said it's time the U.S. open up high-level dialogue channels with Pyongyang. Witt also warned of North Korea's growing military threats, saying it will most likely finish preparations by the end of the year on a rocket more powerful than the Unha-3 rocket that was test-fired 2 years ago. Yurian, Arirang News.
Korea has a whole new fleet of fighter jets from the U.S. coming, but concerns over Lockheed Martin's F-35s continue to mount. A New York Times editorial pointed to several technical problems with the state-of-the-art warplane. Most recently, an engine failure at an Air Force base in Florida last month. The editorial piece called on Washington to either buy fewer of the jets or halt purchases altogether until operational testing is completed in 2019. South Korea announced in March that it would buy 40 of Lockheed Martin's F-35s in the coming years as its next-generation fighter. The United Nations has made another move that is sure to enrage North Korea. The UN Security Council's Sanctions Committee on late Monday voted to blacklist the operator of a North Korean ship seized last year in the Panama Canal, trying to smuggle military hardware out of Cuba. Pyongyang-based Ocean Maritime Management is also subject to an international asset freeze and travel ban.
We here in Korea are bracing for scorching hot weather as the monsoon season is almost over. The heat wave is already hard to take as is, but experts are warning global warming could make our future summers even much longer and the effects could be disastrous. Kim Min-ji tells us more.
It's very hot and humid compared to before, and there are a lot of tropical nights.
It has gotten much hotter. I visit Busan regularly, and it's the same down there. I can feel the humidity. Levels are high.
In Korea, heat wave warnings are issued when temperatures exceed 33 degrees Celsius for 2 straight days. Usually a heat wave lasts for 10 days on average in Korea, but experts warn that period could get much longer in the coming years. The Natural Disaster Management Institute says heat waves could last for at least 1 month by 2020, which could potentially lead to the death of thousands of people. Here's a possible scenario. During the first week, the heat will cause droughts, and in the second, the first fatalities will be reported. As the week progresses, the number of people succumbing to the heat will rise, and the prices of agricultural and farming products will surge. Into the fourth week, temperatures could rise above 40 degrees Celsius, threatening the lives of some 10,000 people. Transportation could also be disrupted as tires are liable to explode and railway tracks can bend and buckle. In fact, in 1994, when the heat wave lasted for 30 days, over 3,000 more people died than average, and there were blackouts and a shortage of drinking water. Experts warn the damage could be worse now.
We will see problems in the farming sector due to a lack of water. In the manufacturing sector, power shortages will reduce the number of working days, which will hurt the economy overall.
The institute warns heat waves could linger for up to 50 days in 2050, but by then it could be too late to reverse the effects of global warming. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Israeli military pounded targets in Gaza on Tuesday after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said his country needed to be ready for a long conflict, sort of squashing any hope of an immediate end to the fighting there.
For more, we go to our Kim Hyun-bin at the news center. Hyun-bin, what's the latest in Gaza?
Well, Gaza's interior ministry says Israeli aircraft fired a missile at the house of Hamas Gaza leader Ismail Haniyeh, resulting in major damage, but no casualties. An Israeli military spokeswoman says 70 targets were hit in Gaza throughout the night. At least 30 people were killed. Foreign pressure has been building on Netanyahu to rein in his forces. Both U.S. President Barack Obama and the UN Security Council called for an immediate ceasefire, followed by negotiations to end the hostilities. But Israel wants Gaza's armed groups stripped of weapons, while Hamas and his allies want the Israeli-Egyptian blockade lifted. Israel launched its offensive on July 8th, saying it wanted to halt rocket attacks from Hamas and its allies. Since then, over 1,000 people, mostly civilians, have been killed. The U.S. and the EU are certain Moscow is providing weapons to separatist rebels that shot down Malaysia Airlines Flight 17. In response, they're ready to turn up the pressure and slap down new sanctions on the country. This as pro-Russia rebels blocked international experts and police from the plane's crash site for the third day in a row. Song Ji-sun reports.
The leaders of the United States and a handful of European nations have made clear their determination to act against Russia. Following a conference call on Monday, U.S. President Barack Obama, German Chancellor Angela Merkel, French President François Hollande, British Prime Minister David Cameron, and Italian Prime Minister Matteo Renzi agreed to place additional, as yet unspecified, sanctions on the Russian economy this week. Western leaders are increasingly certain that Russian President Vladimir Putin has strong links to downing of Malaysia Airlines Flight 17 due to his support for pro-Russia separatists in eastern Ukraine. The leaders also call for unrestricted access to the MH17 crash site. Washington says its intel shows Moscow is continuing to transfer heavy weaponry and fighters across the border to aid pro-Russia separatists and has stationed Russian troops near the border in possible preparation for a further incursion into Ukraine. European leaders made clear last week that they were willing to target financial, defense and energy sectors of Russia's economy, but some European countries remain wary of backing new measures that could restrict trade across entire industries and hurt the European economy. 송지선, Arirang News.
A newly developed electric mini car is scheduled to take on Sao Paulo's streets, hopefully reducing chronic traffic jams in the region. The car, called Nanico, the current model is gas-powered and capable of running 80 miles per gallon, a fraction of the fuel used in most conventional cars. But its creators are going a step further and changing out Nanico's combustion engine for an electric motor that runs on solar power batteries.
We are installing a motor that will have 7 kilowatts of potential, capable of traveling up to 70 kilometers per hour, which is the speed limit here in Greater Sao Paulo. It could be charged within 6 hours using solar batteries.
The Brazilian car maker Sewol and his partner plan to unveil their newest creation in a car show in Sao Paulo next month. They say the tiny invention is environmentally friendly and a possible solution to traffic congestions, which could make a very big impact on the streets of their city. McDonald's in China has pulled the Big Mac and chicken nuggets off their menu for the time being, as its meat supplier is getting major heat for unsanitary practices. The Illinois-based parent company of Shanghai Hussey Food has recalled all of its products from the market. A recent TV report showed hard footage of Hussey Food employees mixing expired meat with fresh products and forging production dates, causing major uproar from the fast food chains they service, as well as the public. Parent company OSI Group said the food safety scandal was absolutely inconsistent with the company's standards and promised to review all of its China plants. And that wraps up our look at international stories making headlines around the world. I'll see you back here tomorrow night.
Hello and welcome to sports. Let's start with football as Son Heung-min and his German club team Bayer Leverkusen arrived for their Korea tour Tuesday afternoon. Son, fellow South Korean Ryu Sung-woo, Stefan Kiesling and company will kick off against FC Seoul on Wednesday evening in a friendly match and take part in promotional activities before leaving Sunday. And speaking of 22-year-old Son Heung-min, he said it was still early to say whether he'd played for the national team for the Asian Games. But chances are that his club won't release him for the non-FIFA sanctioned event, even if he does make the team. And moving on, let's get to Tuesday's KBO matchup between the Tusan Bears and Lotte Giants. Now, Tusan sends Dustin Nipper to the mound. Lotte has Hong Seung-min. Now there's no score until the fourth. Tusan's Kim Hyun-soo slams the long ball. Then we go to the fifth inning. Kim starts the scoring again. Hong Seung-eun, Yang Ui-ji, and more all get hits for 9 runs. It's 10-0 Bears. Bottom fifth, we go to Kim Mun-ho. He gets one for Lotte with a solo shot. But in the fifth inning rally, it seals the deal, and Tusan goes on to win this one 12-1. And looking at the other games, we have Nexon defeating Hanwha 18-3. Meanwhile, NC leads Kia 7-3 in the 9th, and LG is ahead of Samsung 7-6, also in the 9th inning. Now heading to the hard court, South Korea basketball got a boost on Tuesday, defeating New Zealand in an exhibition game. In the 64-58 victory, shooting guard Cho Sung-min sank 4 from long range for a team-high 16 points. Forward Oh Se-gun recorded an 11-point, 14-rebound double-double, while Yang Dong-gun added 11 points. They'll face each other again on Thursday at 1 p.m. at Chamshir Students' Gymnasium in Seoul. And more basketball, this time in Los Angeles, California. LA Clippers owner Donald Sterling lost in court to prevent the sale of his team. The presiding judge ruled that co-owner and estranged wife, Shelley Sterling, had every right to sell the team, paving the way for businessman Steve Ballmer to purchase the Clippers for $2 billion. However, it's still far from over as Donald Sterling has 2 other lawsuits pending. And that's all I have for now. This has been Stephen Che. I'll see you back here later with more from the world of sports.
Welcome to Arirang Weather, everyone. I'm Kim Bo-kyung with the latest update. It was a sweltering hot summer day here in the capital city, and tomorrow, Sewol as well as Gyeonggi-do and Chungcheongbuk-do provinces are forecast to get up to 30 millimeters of precipitation. This may be accompanied by stormy conditions. After this light rain, we'll be done with monsoon showers for a while. At the moment, we are seeing partly cloudy skies across the map, and brace yourselves for hot summer conditions as daytime highs in most parts of the country will hit above 30 degrees tomorrow. Tropical nights are also in store, and it's recommended that you take a shower in lukewarm water rather than a cold one to help cool down. On to Wednesday's readings. Sewol jumps to 32, Gwangju to 33. As for other places, Daejeon and Jeju make it to the low 30s while Dokdo hits 27. And that's all for now, but I'll be back with more updates after midnight.
And that's primetime news for this Tuesday. I'm Sean Lim. Thanks for joining us.
And I'm Gang Tae-ri. Have a great evening, and we'll see you soon.